Influencer culture is louder, faster, and more performative than ever. But at what cost? In this video, we're diving deep into three major creators: Lala Sadi, Clara Dao, and Jazmine Tan. Each of them built massive platforms, but their recent content has sparked controversy, confusion, and criticism. We're not here for drama. We're here to break down what's really going on, how these influencers may be losing trust, and what that says about the online space as a whole. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts in the comments after watching. Lala Sadi became popular for her short-form skits that often mixed humor, drama, and what appeared to be real-life situations. Her videos built a loyal following who were drawn to her over-the-top characters, catchy lines, and relatable content. But as her channel grew, so did the confusion. At some point, fans started asking which parts were real and which were just acting. The issue isn't that Lala creates fictional stories. Plenty of influencers do that, and people enjoy content that feels like a mini-show. The real problem is that she never clearly separates what's scripted from what's personal. One minute she's throwing on a wig and acting out a chaotic scene. The next, she's opening up about her family, her heartbreak, or her childhood. It's all posted in the same style, with the same tone, on the same platforms. That blend has left a lot of her audience wondering what to believe. In a recent video titled "What You All Want to Know the Truth," Lala finally responded to questions about her content and cleared the air, or at least she tried to. She explained that her channel is built around POVs and exaggeration, that she acts in many of her videos, and that her loud, wild personality online isn't how she is in real life. But while she called it acting, she also insisted that the emotions and situations in some of her videos are completely real. That contradiction is at the heart of why so many viewers are skeptical. She said she creates characters and plays them for fun, and that she uses humor and exaggeration to make heavy topics easier to digest. That makes sense on paper. The problem is, she never told her audience that's what she was doing. At least not clearly. It wasn't until people started calling her out that she began to say her content was just acting. And even then, she did it in a way that still left things vague. Saying something is exaggerated isn't the same as saying it's fictional. Saying something is emotional doesn't make it true. And when you build a platform off of stories that sound like real confessions, people are going to expect honesty. Lala's video also brought religion into the conversation. She talked about her spiritual background and made references to practicing parts of her faith during Ramadan. The person reacting to her video found that confusing, asking why someone who claims to value religion and God would feel comfortable lying to their audience. Of course, people can be religious and flawed at the same time, but it added another layer to the criticism. If you're open about your beliefs and the importance of morality, it's fair for people to question whether your actions match those values. The reaction video also questioned Lala's motives, especially around the timing of her emotional posts. She's been accused of creating drama right before a new song or project drops. That kind of strategy isn't new. Plenty of public figures stir up controversy before a release. The issue here is how far it seems to go. Some of Lala's videos touched on extremely personal topics, like discovering a stepsister or hinting at family betrayal. These weren't presented like fictional skits. They were told as if they were raw emotional truths. If they were exaggerated or fabricated, that's not just acting, it's manipulation. And that's where a lot of trust started to break down. Viewers felt misled. Some even commented that they no longer believe anything she says, but still tune in for the drama. That's not a compliment, it's a red flag. Once your audience stops trusting you, it's hard to come back from that. People don't want to feel like they're being played, especially when you're talking about sensitive topics like mental health, family, or abuse. Another criticism was about her storytelling being confusing and messy. If you're going to act, people expect some level of polish, a beginning, middle, and end. Some sort of context that makes it clear this is performance. Lala's videos often blur that line too much, leaving viewers unsure whether they're supposed to laugh, cry, or be concerned. It's not just that she fakes stories. It's that she never gives her audience the tools to tell what's real. For someone whose brand is built on relatability, this kind of confusion is damaging. People followed her because they thought they were seeing a real girl share her life in a creative way. But if the stories are fake and the emotions are staged, it turns everything into a performance, and not one people feel good about watching. What was once quirky and entertaining now feels calculated. And in a world where people crave honesty from their favorite creators, that shift could cost her more than just subscribers. Clara Dao built her platform on confidence, bold opinions, and a no-nonsense approach to self-worth. She used to speak out on identity, culture, and body image with a kind of unapologetic energy that made people feel empowered. But over time, that message started to change. What once felt authentic and grounded has slowly turned into something harder to connect with, and a lot of followers are beginning to question whether the confidence was ever real in the first place. In recent videos, Clara seems more focused on glamour, beauty, and outer appearance than the deeper messages she once stood for. She talks differently. She looks different. Her presence online feels filtered, not just visually, but emotionally. The transparency she used to be known for has been replaced by a curated image that doesn't seem to reflect who she used to be. Her transformation, especially after cosmetic procedures, has become a major talking point. Some viewers feel like the changes are less about personal growth and more about masking insecurity. To be clear, the criticism isn't about whether someone should get plastic surgery. It's about the message behind it. Clara often preaches self-love, but now that message feels hollow to some. When someone who used to push body positivity suddenly changes their appearance drastically, it sends mixed signals. Can you really say you love yourself as you are while altering nearly every part of your look? That contradiction is hard to ignore, especially when so much of her following was built on the idea of being real and raw. What makes this worse is how she's handled criticism. In response to people calling out her shift in content and personality, Clara has claimed that people are obsessed with her, that the hate is jealousy, and that she's simply living her truth. That kind of response might work once or twice, but when large portions of your audience start saying the same thing, brushing it off as obsession doesn't come across as strong. It comes across as defensive. And for someone who once talked so much about emotional intelligence and self-awareness, the way she dismisses feedback feels off-brand. There's also been a noticeable lack of depth in her content lately. It's one thing to grow and change, but Clara seems to have left behind the substance that made her voice unique. The tough love, the honest reflections, the emotional openness, all of it has been replaced by surface-level affirmations and aesthetic lifestyle content. That's not necessarily wrong, but it's a big shift, and her followers feel the difference. You can't build a platform on "I'm not like other influencers" and then slowly become exactly like them. Another point that's come up in conversations around Clara is the idea that her version of confidence has turned into arrogance. Where she once encouraged people to find peace in being ordinary and human, now she seems to push the idea that standing out and being that girl is the goal. Her message feels less about connecting and more about proving something. But true confidence doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't need to. When someone keeps insisting they're confident, it starts to feel like they're trying to convince themselves more than anyone else. People are also noticing how her relationships with her audience have shifted. In earlier days, she would engage with followers in meaningful ways. There were comment responses, heartfelt videos, and genuine thank yous. Now, her interactions feel more controlled, more like a brand protecting its image than a person showing appreciation. She's gone from being someone viewers felt close to someone they feel distant from, someone performing for the algorithm, not connecting with people. It's important to say that many people still root for Clara, They remember who she was before the image overhaul, and they want her to succeed. But there's a growing sense of disappointment, not because she changed, but because the change feels like a loss of something important. A lot of viewers aren't asking for her to go back. They're asking for clarity. They want to know what she stands for now. They want her to be honest about what's behind the transformation. They want to feel like they're following a person, not just a polished product. At the end of the day, the question isn't whether someone is allowed to evolve. It's whether that evolution stays true to what made people care in the first place. Clara Dao used to be the voice people turned to for real talk and tough love. Now, that voice feels distant. And unless she finds a way to reconnect, not just with her audience, but with the values she built her platform on, she risks becoming the very thing she used to stand against. Jazmine Tan comes across as the most carefree of the three influencers being discussed, but that lightness is part of what's landed her in trouble. She's known for her glam lifestyle, beauty routines, and a bubbly personality that makes her seem approachable and fun. She's transparent about getting Botox, open about her aesthetic choices, and doesn't pretend to be anything other than what she is. A girl who likes pretty things, good lighting, and sharing it all online. At first glance, there's something refreshing about that. But when you look closer, you start to see the cracks in the foundation. Jazmine's biggest issue isn't dishonesty or manipulation, it's a lack of self-awareness. In many of her videos, she speaks freely, sometimes without thinking. And that habit has led to more than one viral moment for the wrong reasons. People have called her out for saying things that come across as tone-deaf, shallow, or just plain uninformed. And while none of it seems intentionally harmful, it reveals something deeper. She may not fully understand the impact of her words, or how her privilege shapes her perspective. What makes this complicated is that Jazmine doesn't come off as a mean person. In fact, she seems kind, supportive, and well-meaning. But intention isn't everything. Being likable doesn't excuse you from being held accountable, and that's where the criticism of her starts to stick. She represents a type of influencer that's everywhere right now, polished, passive, and protected by aesthetic. There's an entire category of online creators who build platforms on beauty and lifestyle, but don't have the depth to back up the influence they're gaining. Jazmine fits into that mold more than she probably realizes. Another challenge is her tone.
Baby girl, come get ready with me while I tell you secret dating tips that I wish I had an older sister to tell me.
She often speaks in a high-pitched, overly animated voice that feels performative and distracting. For some viewers, that's part of the charm. For others, it's hard to take her seriously. It gives the impression that everything is surface level, that there's no real substance underneath the glitter. And even though she occasionally talks about deeper topics, the way she presents herself makes it hard for those moments to land with any real weight. There's also the question of growth. While Clara and Lala are being accused of deception or inauthenticity, Jazmine's criticism is more about stagnation. She doesn't seem to be evolving. Her content is the same, her message is unclear, and her audience is starting to notice. That kind of plateau can be dangerous for influencers, especially in a space where trends move fast and audiences crave development. If you're not growing with your followers, you risk getting left behind. Still, Jazmine has something the others don't. People believe she has potential. She doesn't appear manipulative. She doesn't play emotional games. And there's a sweetness to her that feels genuine. The problem is that potential only matters if it's used. If she continues to float through her influencer career without reflection or direction, she might end up fading into the background. But if she takes time to mature, to educate herself, and to be more intentional with her content, she could actually outlast the drama surrounding Clara and Lala. One area where Jazmine could start making changes is in how she responds to criticism. So far, she hasn't shown much sign of wanting to address concerns or explain herself. That may work in the short term, but long-term credibility comes from being willing to engage with your audience on a real level. Not just through cute captions or carefully staged "get ready with me" videos. If she wants to be seen as more than just a pretty face online, she's going to have to start showing what's behind it. There's also a real opportunity for her to become a role model, not just a trend follower. If she leaned into vulnerability, if she shared her learning process instead of pretending everything is fine all the time, she could inspire more than just outfit choices or skincare routines. People don't need perfection. They want relatability, honesty, and someone who's not afraid to admit they don't have it all figured out. Jazmine could be that person if she's willing to do the work. Right now, she's stuck in a space that feels safe but shallow. That's not a terrible place to be, especially in a digital world that often rewards simplicity. But it's not sustainable. Audiences are smart. They grow up. They start looking for meaning, and if she doesn't start offering more than aesthetic inspiration, they'll move on to someone who does. Jazmine Tan doesn't need to reinvent herself. She just needs to slow down, reflect, and get serious about what she stands for. Because behind all the gloss and sparkle, there's a person people want to root for. The question is whether she's ready to become that person, or whether she'll stay stuck playing it safe. The stories of Lala Sadi, Clara Dao, and Jazmine Tan aren't just about them. They're about the evolving relationship between influencers and their audiences. Authenticity matters, and people can sense when something feels off. Whether it's exaggerated stories, blurred identities, or lack of self-awareness, these creators are at a crossroads. The question now is, can they rebuild trust, or are they too far gone? If you made it to the end, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more thoughtful commentary like this, and drop a comment with your take. Do you think these influencers can recover?